start. All right, welcome everybody. Hope everybody had a good spring break. Before we hit the agenda items, I just want to talk for a quick minute about the community survey that went out. I was looking at Facebook, which I really try not to do. I was just talking to John about that, but there were several people who had posted some comments and were concerned that the question about the 4-day work week seemed slanted and that I gave inaccurate information. So I just want to clarify for everybody. The board directed me to put the question about the 4-day work week on the survey. So I did. But we had a bill at the state level, the facilities bill, that initially had language in there that said if a district goes from a 5-day school week to a 4-day school week, they don't get to access the facility dollars, which for Lakeland is about $20 million. So I felt it was important to put that information out there so people had all of the information. Well, we sent it to print a couple of weeks ago, and since then there have been some trailer bills, and so it sounds like they're going to modify the language a little bit around the 4-day work week. And we are anticipating that the state superintendent is going to actually beef up the requirements for student contact hours and teacher contract days because of the 4-day week. So we're just kind of waiting to see what will happen with that. But I just want to make sure that you guys are comfortable that it was not my intention to sway anybody one way or another, but I did want everybody to have the full information. All right, first question. Would it be possible to plan to have a parent advocacy meeting in the next 3 to 6 months where the principals are invited to attend? The topic of the meeting could be discipline in the schools, where there could be open dialogue and parents could voice concerns or ask questions, and the principals could give perspective. In theory, that sounds like a really nice idea. However, even in this arena, we've had situations where school discipline has come up and it's become very personal to their child and their school, which in my world is better suited to, those conversations are better suited in the school with the principal. So I would just really encourage parents, if you have questions about discipline in the school your kiddos attend, to just schedule a meeting with your principal and then go in and have a conversation. But when we were having those conversations here, it got really personal really quickly, and this isn't that venue. So any concerns about that? I don't know who put any of these on ever, so but this venue is really supposed to be about district issues instead of specific building issues. So are the support staff in the school district part of the teachers union in the district? They have the opportunity to be a member if they choose to be. I don't think we have a lot of classified members. Heather, do you know off the top of your head?
No, they can be. I think that it's probably more certified teachers than paraprofessionals.
I think I saw 57% overall membership. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, for the district.
Yeah.
And I would think that they have 5-ish classified people as members. Everybody else is a teacher.
I think I brought that up a few months ago, since we hadn't been here for a little while. But the point I was trying to raise with that is, if you have the oversight group being the district, and you have the staff being the ones being overseen, and the union is representing issues and items on both sides of that, does that create a little appearance of check and balance concern?
Say that again. I was typing, I
So-
was listening to you, but I'm
So
not
if,
processing.
if you have your teaching staff at the schools and you have your oversight staff, and they're both members of the same union, oftentimes the union are there to address those internal items and issues. Does that give an appearance of perhaps discomfort would be another word, of check and balance?
So in Idaho, the law is very clear. We can only negotiate with certified teachers, for certified teachers, and only for wages and benefits. So all of the other issues, which maybe it makes this, I don't like to use the word union, it's more of a professional association, but if we're using the word union, I think it might be a little bit different than what a more traditional union negotiations might look like. We don't really negotiate what your day looks like or
Okay.
working conditions, those kinds of things.
The
Those are
union doesn't get involved in that
No.
at all?
No.
Okay.
But what we have agreed on is whatever we agree to for the teachers, then the rest of the staff get that same. So if
Mhm.
the teachers are getting a 3% pay increase, then the support staff gets 3%.
Yeah, I think if it just pertains to wages only, then that kind of eliminates the rest of the concern.
Mm-hmm.
You know, unless there's meetings that are being conducted where some of those things are being discussed that involves public funds of any kind, then they have to be a little transparent with that, I would think.
Yeah, so all of our, we actually are starting our negotiations tonight at 6, so
Oh,
all of,
what a well-timed question.
that was a good question, yeah. So we take minutes and then we post those so
I
that
gotcha.
the entire community can
Got
see
it.
the conversations.
Makes sense.
And is this union affiliated with any state or national teachers union?
The Idaho Education Association. The district school year calendar, some parents are unhappy that school's running up on Christmas and impacting their holiday season plans. This is just unfortunately the cycle of the calendar. Our district made a decision it's probably been about 10 years ago now, that we aren't going to end on a Wednesday and come back on a Wednesday because all of our curriculum is designed to be taught in 5-day weeks. And when we did have weeks where we ended on a Wednesday, so for example, Thanksgiving vacation used to be, we had school Monday, Tuesday, and half of Wednesday, and then we had Thursday and Friday off for Thanksgiving. But our attendance was really poor because the parents saw that as a week where there wasn't a lot of really great learning happening because it was a short week, and so they just would pull their kids out. So we've just made it kind of an unwritten rule in Lakeland that we won't create those short weeks if we can avoid it. So when New Year's falls like on a Monday or Tuesday, we're not gonna have the kids coming back to school on that Wednesday, so that means it pushes it out to the Monday after, which pushes Christmas vacation a little bit later. It's just the normal kind of flow of the calendar. We're getting back into normal range. I think this next year, the last day of school before Christmas is either the 19th or the 20th, so we're back to just a normal. We just have a couple of years in a row where it's later because of the way the calendar falls. So, any questions about that?
I have a question.
Yep.
So it's a little off the subject here because you said that our curriculum is based on 5-day school weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But we started the meeting and the survey, right? We were talking about 4 days. So what does that look like? Does that mean we have to change our curriculum or revamp it then, or?
We definitely would have to make some pretty big modifications to our
Okay.
instructional pacing calendars.
Is that really just at the teacher level, or, I mean, or is it gonna cost us money to?
No, it won't cost us any
revamp?
money. It's really about looking at our tools and then figuring out what that 4 days of instruction looks like. I mean, in theory, if you're doing it right, you are adding the 6 hours of instruction you're losing on Friday to the 4 days there, and so you can
Yeah.
teach more.
Okay.
It doesn't work that way actually, because by 4 o'clock in the afternoon, kindergarten and first graders are not learning anymore. And I would tell you that even 5th graders would struggle at 4 o'clock to be learning something new. So, in theory, you know, that's how it's supposed to work.
Thank you.
And as far as the 4-day week is concerned, did one of the other 2 districts go to 4 days? Did Post Falls go to 4 days?
Post Falls this year is 4 days, Priest River is 4 days.
So you will have some data that you can look at before we make that big decision, okay?
Yeah, and right now the board's just interested to even know if it's something the community's wanting us to look at. We're getting a lot of comments about concerns about what do we do with our kids on Friday, because we don't have a lot of childcare options in our communities, so.
Did you elaborate a little bit on the $20 million offset that you say they're gonna rework that? To what degree do you think they're looking at?
They are, the last language I saw said that schools who are using a 4-day work week can access the funds as long as they are meeting the state minimums with regard to instructional hours and teacher contract days. So districts who are currently 4 days may have to do something different. So I know right now in Post Falls, they don't work on Fridays, and so their teachers are on our teachers are on a 190-day contract, their teachers are on, 190 days minus probably about 30, so 160-ish day contract. If the state comes out and says that your teachers must work 190 days, they've got to figure out how to put that in, or they can't get the money. So.
I see. Has there been any discussion on the cost of savings of not doing a Friday versus what the potential loss of $20 million might be? How that would compare?
Oh, you save very little money.
That's what I was wondering.
Very little money.
Yeah.
Because even if that's the reason you're doing it is to save money,
Mm-hmm.
you would have to shut everything down. So there are some issues with that. One, you have kids on an IEP, and the IEP says they're gonna get 5 days of instruction for this many minutes. We legally have to meet that. So if it says 5 days, we'd have to go in and rewrite all of the IEPs to say 4. But you definitely have kids who need 5 days of instruction, and so school districts have had classified staff in the buildings on Fridays to work with kids and provide some additional instructional opportunities. As soon as you open the building and turn the power on, you're not saving any money.
Right.
So the other issue with like using it as a money savings is really where you're saving money is on the backs of your classified staff, your support staff. So our bus drivers
feel,
our bus
Yeah.
drivers wouldn't get paid for Fridays, so they would lose a fifth of their pay. Our paraprofessionals, our food service people, so that's where the savings comes, is really on the backs of the support staff.
And possibly attendance, correct? There's been some improvement with attendance with.
Yeah, we're waiting, Dina's been tracking attendance, in Post Falls, so we're kinda waiting to see if they're gonna see an increase in. She was hoping they would see a decrease in staff absenteeism, and that has not happened. But I do know that so far they're seeing that their student attendance is a little bit better, but I don't know how much more ADA that's gonna generate for them.
Has there been any thought that the ones that could afford to lose that kind of money, or the ones that are gonna lose that kind of money, and maybe they're gonna lose those employees to fill that gap? Have you just had a discussion, is that a possibility? People that say they just can't afford to work
Right,
here.
yeah, that would be,
I imagine they're already not flush with money.
well, we already struggle to compete with, Taco Bell pays $17 an hour.
Yeah.
And, that's a lot of money, we don't pay everybody
Big
that much
concern.
money, so we're already struggling with that. But right now, that we're just in a kind of fact finding, like, is this even something that this community would, be in support of? And at this point.
I think that's a very big fact. People, they can't afford it.
Yeah. Any other, can I just since we're all here and we're talking about the facilities bill, there is some good news actually for our taxpayers. So we are in the first year of our supplemental levy. Next year we will have to rerun our supplemental levy, which right now is $9.52 million. But we also have a plant facility levy on the books, and part of the new facilities bill is every district is going to get an annual allotment for the maintenance of facilities, which for Lakeland will be $1.2 million. So that means when we go back out to rerun the supplemental levy, we should, my recommendation to the board has already been that we would not rerun the plant facility levy, we will use the state dollars for that. In addition to those dollars, there's a pot of money that it's paid out over 10 years, but districts can take it in one lump sum at the beginning if they want to. For Lakeland, it's going to be about $18 million, a little over $18 million, which we can use to purchase land to build a building. We can use it to build a building. We could use it to renovate buildings. So that's really good news for Idaho's really stepping up and helping us with our facilities for the first time, so we're very grateful for that. And then the tax relief bill that came out last year is still on the books. So if we do rerun our supplemental levy just at what it is right now, $9.52 million, the state will pay $1.5 million of that. So actually what we're levying, we're collecting from our taxpayers would be $8 million in total. So
Additionally, we have a bond payment that will fall off the books.
right, so we have two of our bond payments. One we make this year, and then we'll make our last one next year, and then we own all of our buildings outright. So there is some good news there.
There will be some tax relief coming very soon.
Yeah. Okay. This is a good question. So how is the priority for maintenance, repairs, and other expenditures determined? For example, why were the high school bleachers considered a higher priority than replacement of doors, which is a security issue? And when is next year's budget determined? So we have had one budget workshop. We've had one budget workshop, one facilities workshop. I think we have one more budget workshop. And we're talking about this. So Mike Ferriola, who's the director of our facilities department, has a 30-year matrix that he has been working off of, where he has every system in every building identified and then the years that those systems were last updated. So I think for the most part, every building in this district has, a new roof or within the last 5 years. And now we're working on the exteriors of the buildings, so Lakeland Middle School was finished last summer, Athol and Spirit Lake will be done this summer, John Brown will be next, and so we'll kind of work through, that. And then, but Mike would really like to get inside the building and start, tackling some of just the internal structure, systems, which that 18 million from the state will help with. We have John Brown and Lakeland Middle School, where we can't add anything to those buildings because they don't have the electrical capacity, because in 1960, whatever, 63, 65, when those buildings were built, they just didn't need as much electricity as we do today. So that will be a big ticket item to go in and completely revamp those buildings and put all new electrical in. That's what that $18 million is for from the state, is for those major renovations. We have buildings that need new HVAC systems. So what the board has done is, and the doors, with regard to this specific question, the doors are part of the exterior renovation. So as we go to each building, it's the siding, it's the doors, and it's the windows. So Lakeland Middle School, somebody had posted online that we were supposed to have replaced the doors, and we didn't do that, we just painted them. That's not accurate. We did replace the doors. They were painted also, but we did replace the doors. All of the windows that were needing replaced, we didn't replace all of them. And then we are in the process of working on next year's budget. So, and those workshops are open to the community, so if people wanna come and just sit and listen. And actually, when it's a workshop, you do get to ask questions and engage with the board. It's not like a regular board meeting where you just sit and listen. You can participate. So if that's something you're interested in, you certainly can attend.
But I think from a system standpoint, how some of those decisions are being made is, in the past, they were singular and they would come up at various board meetings, and so where the board has really tried to look at those decisions in their entirety, and so what is the need, and kind of rank ordering what needs to happen, because there's definitely some liability, like the bleachers were a liability, people were getting hurt, so they have the tough job of trying to figure out the need is great in multiple buildings, and so then how do you prioritize that and rank order that, and how do we systematically do that, so we're maximizing the dollars that we do have to get the greatest coverage as far as facility repairs. So part of the discussion with the budget and with Mike's 30-year matrix is looking at all the need and then trying to prioritize what can we do, and then if we can't do it this summer, then when can we do it next summer, because then there's a timing element. So it's definitely not it's a little bit intricate in that decision making. There's just a lot to it. So
were those bleachers repurposed?
Which bleachers?
The ones that were dealt with here? What bleachers are they referring to?
I don't know which ones they're referring to in
Are
here.
those the ones that were at the high school?
So Lakeland High School and Timberlake High School both got new bleachers in their main gyms, their big gyms. Both were failing and had some safety issues, which is
Significant safety issues.
And the board actually, when they made the decision to replace the two high schools, it was their intention to also replace Lakeland Middle Schools. However, the principal at the time came back to the board and indicated that she had some other concerns that she felt were higher priority. But at the last board meeting, it was the last one, right? The last board meeting, the board approved painting the gym, reflooring the gym, and putting new bleachers in. And that work will start this summer, and then it won't be completed until next summer because the bleachers are a full year out. So that's the other part, is trying to find the contractors and get the work done.
The Ox Gym also had new bleachers, or maybe they were repurposed?
I think those were repurposed,
Okay.
but I don't know
Yeah, I
that
don't
for sure.
think what we did do was we took, so in the big gym at Lakeland High School, up above,
Yeah.
there were bleachers up there that nobody ever used.
Oh, maybe those got pushed into the auction.
Yeah,
No, they didn't. They,
Oh.
we took those out. They're currently in storage, and we are holding on to them. We're hoping that we can use them at Lakeland Middle School when
Yeah.
we replace the bleachers next summer. So,
I feel like there was one that was repurposed, though I just can't remember.
yeah. And so I can't remember if we did the oxygen at Lakeland High School or not.
Well, I was in there a few weeks ago for a tournament, and
And they look different.
yeah, it's nice to
So
have
then
those
we-
bleachers.
Then we must have done that.
Is Mike new, or has he been with the,
Mike's been
District
with the
for a while.
district for a long time. He's a Lakeland grad and lives in the district, super supportive of our district. And he cares deeply about our facilities. He was the lead grounds person for a long time. And then when Dr. Meyer was here and the director at the time left, Mike was the one Mike applied and was interviewed, and he earned a job. So he's been the director for, this is probably his 8th year.
oh, okay.
He's a hard worker.
He,
He's
yeah,
a
his,
good
and his,
person. He's really good.
he presents well, and his data looks good too, on his spreadsheets.
And the one thing I love about Mike, different from the previous director, is when there is work being done, he is in the middle of it. So one of the things that was very frustrating for me when I came to the district office and we started dealing with the roof leaks at Twin Lakes Elementary and at Timberlake, our two newest schools, what we found was those roofs were not built to the specifications because nobody was holding the contractors accountable. Nobody was on the roofs, walking them, looking at those things. Mike was on when we were having the roofs done, Mike was on every roof every day, looking at the work to make sure that the work that was done was aligned with the specifications that they bid. So he takes that very, very seriously, and then he also is willing to hold companies accountable for warranty work when that is needed. So again, he's a taxpayer here, so he doesn't want to pay taxes on things that we shouldn't have to be paying for. So our buildings are in really good hands.
On that question too, none of the maintenance was deferred for those bleachers. It was all volunteer work. So, K-Tech broke them down, we moved them, we built the wall, and, no cost to the taxpayer. Well, that was good. Supposed to be at the junior high.
Okay.
Okay. I heard the board clerk is leaving the position. Why so much turnover in this position over the past few years, and will the position be filled? So this obviously was written quite a while ago. We have definitely had several clerks over the last few years. A couple of them applied for different positions within the district where they have young families and they weren't needing to be at so many evening meetings. The board does a lot of their work in the evenings. We had one who left to take her dream job leading the Hutton settlement in Spokane, which is I don't even know what you call it. It's like an orphanage kind of, but kids are placed there and they live on site and they have cabin parents, and it's a really great thing, and anyway, that's where her heart was, that was her kind of.
Wasn't she a
her
social worker, wasn't Chrissy a social worker?
Mhm.
Licensed social worker?
Yeah.
What's the workload for that position? Is it I know the board's been very active, things have been very active here. Is that a position that is, it's probably a stepping stone into the district as well, but is it
That's how some of them have.
very a lot of administrative, or a lot of notes, or what is it?
Yeah, a lot of clerical.
Clerical? Clerk.
Yeah, so, you know, it's a lot of going back and listening to the board meetings to make sure that when they're putting the minutes in, that they're accurately capturing what the motions were, what the discussion was, so that if people in the community don't want to go watch a 3-hour board meeting, but they want to peruse the notes, so the notes match what is in the what's in the video. They keep the board organized, but this board is really active, and so we, you know, previous board, we had 2 board meetings a month, and that was it. This board meets, we have 1 regular board meeting a month, and then we've had special board meetings and lots of workshops, because they're interested in learning, and so and when the board is working together, the clerk has to be with them, so. Okay, is there a fundraising policy now that the levy does not cover all athletic and activity expenses, and what will be covered? So the answer to that is yes. We didn't increase the supplemental levy when we ran it last time. It was flat, even though inflation at that time was at 9%, and so everything costs more. And we just didn't pass those costs along to the taxpayers, because everybody's paying more for everything. And so what we had to do was figure out how we can kind of dial things back and live within our budget. So one of the things that we used to do with the levy dollars is fully pay for athletic uniforms on a rotation cycle for our high schools and middle schools. And we have asked the kids to fundraise for half of the cost of the new uniforms, and then the district is paying the other half. The other thing that we aren't covering anymore is teams like to travel. Sometimes they travel because they need to go find a higher level of competition so that they can improve their skill set. But the district taxpayers were paying for the charter bus to go to Southern Idaho for a non-league, non-state tournament. And they were paying for the hotel and the food, and that was becoming, it was a lot of money. I mean, it was $10,000 for each of those trips. That's a lot of money to ask taxpayers to pay. So we have just told the teams, if you are going to go to those non-league, non-state tournaments, you have to fundraise for those. And from the board's perspective, they did feel like when kids fundraise, they have a little bit of skin in the game. It means more to them. The board was a little bit concerned that we were kind of raising kids to just have their hand out and expect that we're going to give them, you know, what they want or what they need. And so they're asking to have the kids participate a little bit more in the things that are important to them. So that's kind of the why. Any questions about that or concerns?
I know as a parent, with football player and wrestler, they've constantly done fundraising up at Timberlake. And some of the parents who've had, businesses have paid for hotels and transportation to go down south as part of a tax write-off. Thankfully, or they wouldn't have enough tournaments. So, yeah, there's a lot of family investment
Support,
in
yeah.
that.
Well, the exposure is a big deal, the increase in competition. My kids are all athletes, and it definitely makes a difference for the program, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's a lot of money.
It is, and, you know, I guess if it was just one team, but you've got
Yeah.
2 high schools with 2 football teams, so they're both going, and then, we had wrestling going, boys and girls basketball were going, baseball was going. It started to be a lot of money.
Well, I heard that Coeur d'Alene took 2 buses, 2 full charters, one for one group of kids, one for another group of kids. They were both half empty, so maybe pony up and find out if there's room somewhere.
We do that.
You could.
Yep, yeah, Lakeland and Timberlake, our 2 schools will travel together when they're going to the same tournament, which doesn't always work. Oftentimes it's less about the athletics and more about the co-curricular, extracurricular things like FFA. But because Timberlake is a 3A school and Lakeland's a 4A, they don't typically go to the same place at the same time. But we do share with Post Falls, with Lake City, and Portland
And
High Schools.
Bonners, my daughter's a cheerleader, and they've shared the bus with Bonners going all the way down to state and back almost every year.
And Timberlake cross country this year, and Lakeland cross country did go to Pocatello on the same bus.
Yeah, so we double up as much as we can.
I imagine you gotta be a little careful about who you put with who. A little testy on some of the
Might have some wrestling tournaments on the bus.
That's kinda what I'm thinking.
The
I'll
other
take
thing,
Lakeland over.
You're right.
the other thing we changed this year, just so everybody in the room is aware, is previously the decision was made that we were not going to take our yellow buses more than 100 miles away from the district, and that we would use charter buses. Well, when we did that, the charter bus cost us like $2,500 to $3,000 round trip, and it's now $8,000, 6 to 8, depending on where we go. And so we had to go back to the board and ask permission to look at which one is the least expensive, the yellow bus or the charter bus. And then we take whichever one costs less when we're talking about going to state. So sometimes our kids are going down on the yellow bus and sometimes they're on the charter bus. It just depends on what the cost is. What is the status of drug testing? How often is it being done? Can we consider going back to regular or multiple times per season for testing? So last year we tested once per season, and we've started to hear from kids and parents that the kids were figuring out that I just have to stay clean until the test is done, and then it's a free-for-all until the next season starts, and then I gotta clean up again so I can be good for the test. So when I met with the 2 activities directors, we made the decision that we're still testing the same number of kids during the season, but they're testing some kids, and then a few weeks later they're testing some more kids. So they're spreading it out over the season, so kids can't feel really confident that after that first round they're not going to get pulled during that season. So we're still testing 50 students each season. It's just broken up into smaller chunks. You have a quizzical look on your face, Greg?
How are they determined?
It's random. So we give the roster of all of the kids who are participating in extracurricular activities, so it's not just athletics.
It's activities too.
It's activities too, so FFA kids, band kids, drama kids, depending on what season it is, they all go on that roster, and it goes into a computer system and it spits out 50 kids. And if you look, I bring those results to the board each season, We've asked the activities directors to identify which activities the kids participated in, so you can see we're getting a really good cross-section. And also, look, the board's interested in how many boys are retesting, how many girls are retesting, so, it is completely random.
Theoretically, could the same kid get tested every time?
Yeah, 'cause it's random.
Okay.
And theoretically, I'm pretty sure it has happened
Yeah, I
that
think
way.
it has, yeah.
And so parents are like, but it just the luck of the draw. I mean, it 100% has
Alright,
happened.
your
Yeah.
kid's not doing what they shouldn't be doing, there's nothing to worry about.
Yeah, that was the complaint like 4 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was a
Yeah.
lot of people complaining about
Yeah.
certain kids were being targeted and it was now it's random.
I don't think it was was it as random then though, or was it more,
No, it was
it was still random 4 years ago?
Yep. It was done in the same way. We had a different company, but they did it.
Yeah, I remember hearing those complaints at that time, I wasn't familiar with that.
They get tested the same day we find out. We find out and then they go for a test.
Yeah, they'll come to school and they'll get called down and then they don't go back to class until the test is done.
Why do we limit it 50? Is it cost?
There's a cost to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all the schools in this district are all participating in that?
Our two high schools are,
Both the high schools are?
yeah, the two comprehensive high schools, yeah.
But not at the middle school or? Okay.
Has there been a decrease in drug use? Is it drugs, alcohol, everything since testing started?
I don't think it tests for alcohol, but it does test for, and actually the new company we're going with tests for more than what the old company tested for, so it's all your heavy hitters as far as drugs go, methamphetamines, heroin, nicotine, marijuana, cocaine, so it tests for everything. I would tell you that, if you look back through board book and look at the results, we have very few kids who are showing up positive. And when they do, it's either THC or it's nicotine. We haven't had any of the others. We did have one opioid, but she had poppy seed muffin that morning.
Wow.
So when they test positive, the parents are notified, and then the parents can take the kids into the company and have them test again right away, or within a couple of days. And they do a kind of a deeper dive, and then they'll give us back. So they were able to tell us that young lady that she wasn't taking drugs, this was a poppy seed muffin, but, so they've been, the company's been really good to work with. This is a really good question. Why are energy drinks for sale at school grounds not good for anyone? Our CFO is actually cracking down on that because the federal guidelines for what we can have available to kids during school day are very strict, and energy drinks are not on that list, especially if there's sugar involved. So I want to say like the Lotuses and those kinds of things, as long as they're using sugar-free. I know both of our comprehensive high schools and Mountain View, actually, they all have school-run coffee shops. So they have been told that they can't have anything with sugar, but they are still, I think energy drinks are still allowed. So is a Lotus considered an energy drink?
I think it is.
Yeah. And Zip Fizz, I know is used, but I don't.
Their caffeine, whatever, isn't like a Red Bull, I
Right.
think. It's
That's
much
what-
less.
And that's what I can't
I don't know the
answer, so I need to
understanding.
look into that. I don't think we sell Red Bulls, but I probably better check on that. upperclassmen not leaving lunch, at lunch controlled at the high schools. It's, a lot of it is, the honor system. There is no way to police that well, but when the staff finds out that, freshmen and sophomores have left the building, and I think it's actually now just freshmen who are on campus, there are consequences, but, they only find out if somebody tells on them. So, they do their best to kind of keep track of that, but that's an impossible task. Cell phone policy be communicated with parents. I can't find it on the website. It's in the student
32,
handbook.
it's in the handbook, but it's also on the website, it's 3265.
Thank you.
Good job.
Yeah.
Lynn does policy every week with the board. This can be found in policy what?
3265.
Sounds like we need a new challenge.
But it's also in the student handbook.
What communication methods are being used to engage the entire school district, not necessarily just parents? Well, we just sent out a community-wide survey. We use social media sites.
We have used mailers, although the feedback has been that that's not super successful because people are not used to getting stuff from the district, and so when there's been flyers, they kind of toss them.
Do you think that question is primarily for people who don't have children or children who graduated already?
Right. So it's, the problem with social media is you have to be on some type of page where we're posting that, and so we try to get into like North Idaho News or like Rathdrum Community, some of those types of things, but again, we have lots of people that aren't connected to even that, so the mailer, some type of something, snail mail is really the only way truly. We've done some door-to-door stuff. We've tried to put things at, businesses, but really snail mail is the only way that we because they don't have our alert system, we don't have their information, and social media is hit and miss. We heard a lot of that a couple years ago with the levy of people were like, well, I just don't go on social media. And I personally I try not to do anything on social media, like I'm not on it on a regular basis, so that would not be a means of communication with me, because I can't tell you the last time I looked at a social media site, so it's just getting creative. Sometimes it's just we have to do the face-to-face and get out there and do door knocking, and so people are getting information.
Yeah, what's interesting is we did survey the community when I first took this position and asked how do you best get information from the district, and overwhelmingly people said we want you to mail us things through snail mail, which is what we did last year when we were trying to educate the community about the levy, and found out that people weren't even looking at the flyers, they were just throwing them in the trash.
There was only a few hundred in the lobby.
And I know. We are definitely open. If people have other ideas of ways to communicate with our community, we are open. We've also done like
Community forums.
town hall
You
forums,
guys have
yeah.
had a lot of those.
So where did you guys get the names and addresses from? Is that voter registration?
The postal,
Mhm.
post office, gave us a list of all of ours. We had to get a little bit creative though, because they can only give us a list, like, they could give us all of Rathdrum, they could give us all of Apple, Spirit Lake, but we have, when you look at Hauser, they have an 83854 number, and so we didn't wanna send all of our stuff to all of 83854, because it's all of Post Falls.
Okay.
So we, so there were several people in this office that worked to identify on the map which addresses are in our district, and then we had to hand enter those, so, just doing
We
everything.
tried banners, just, but.
Okay, why was this group necessary? What perceived rights were being violated? Who heads this committee and how were they chosen? Is this meeting open to all parents, not just those of particular political ideology? I heard that's how this started. Our minutes and notes from the meeting published in addition to videos. So, I think this is probably an old one, but we will address it. So, this group didn't start because it was necessary. I actually had a meeting with a couple of patrons, Karen was one of them, and we just were talking about the district and how parents can participate in the district and how they can get information. And while I was listening to some of the things they were sharing with me, it dawned on me that in this district, there sometimes are inaccurate pieces of information that are posted on our social media, and as soon as they're out there, they are the gospel truth. And I can't win arguing with somebody over social media, and so I don't even try. But when we don't try to correct the misinformation, then it appears to the community that the information is accurate. So my thought when I met with these ladies was, if we met regularly and they brought to me questions that they might have about things that are happening in the district, how we do things in the district, it would give me an opportunity to make sure that accurate information was getting shared with the community members. And so that's how it started. There wasn't anything nefarious there. They definitely weren't concerned that there were rights that were being violated. They just were new to the district and were interested in how we did things, and really they were interested in how I think about things, what my personal views are on education, and just how I feel about the district. And so it really was just born out of a desire to be open and share information. The meeting is open to anybody who wants to come, not just parents. It can be, we have community members here, people who don't have kids in the district anymore. So it's open to anybody. And now we are recording, so the video goes up on the website. Anybody can sit. And I have gotten a lot of positive feedback from parents who can't be here at 4 o'clock because they work. That it was mostly moms, but they will turn the video on while they're cooking. And they don't have to watch it, but they can listen to the questions and hear the answers, and they just really appreciate that. So that was a recommendation or an ask from Craig that I think the community really appreciates. And then our notes are also, these notes that I'm typing are also posted so that people can see what the conversations are. So we started out small, and it was really just people who are new to the district trying to understand how we do things and what we're about. But it's nice that it's grown. So, did you add anything to that, Karen? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but you were part of that original.
No, I think you hit it.
Do you have plans for it to continue into next year as well, or like the remainder of this year and next year?
Mm-hmm. One of my goals when I took the job was to connect with the community, and Lynn and Kelsey and I have held so many town hall meetings, and you know, we've had some where literally it's the three of us and one other person, and so this group seems to be fairly well attended, so as long as it's not just me and one other person, I do think it's important that I'm available to the community to be able to answer questions, so. Okay, I think we have time for one. We got through a lot today.
Here you go.
Oh, this is easy. Why is it called women's and men's sports at the high school instead of girls and boys? Most conservatives would state they're still boys and girls until the age of 18. Majority of the kids playing in high school are under the age of 18. There's more. Progressives want our children to be labeled women and men at a much younger age for obvious reasons, keep them kids. I will tell you that if you've ever worked in a high school, if you walked into a classroom of high school students and said, good afternoon, boys and girls, they will throw things at you. They do not see themselves as boys and girls. So when I go into a classroom, I say, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And it's not about, for me, it's not about trying to make them feel older or helping them grow up too fast. It's just that they are young adults at that point, and they find it offensive to be called boys and girls. So I don't know that we need to call them women and men. I don't think they're necessarily men and women yet, but
I do feel like from a sports standpoint, we say it's girls basketball, boys
I was just
basketball.
gonna say that.
We
When
say
men
it's,
and women's used.
we don't, I don't think
Because I don't
even
think
ours,
it's
like when they
college.
sign up, it's boys and girls, that's
I've
just
never
how
heard it. I've never heard it men and women.
No,
Is
no,
there a policy somewhere which written men and women? Or is it-
I don't think so.
boys and girls basketball.
Yeah.
Boys and girls soccer.
I
Right.
think the progressive.
It's
I
girls,
think the
it's girls
progressive-
volleyball,
Okay.
we don't say boys football, cause it's just football, but,
Yeah.
right.
And it
But there's
follows-
wrestling, but there's, you know, there are some girl wrestlers, but it's from that classification, I think even IHSA says boys
Breaks
and
it down.
girls, yeah, so, yeah, it's misinformation.
I haven't been
I'm looking
in
to
high
see
school in a
what
long time.
this
Does it
is.
still say boys and girls restrooms, or is it men and women?
I don't think they say anything, I think they just have the images.
Oh, is that what it is?
I think so, that's what it is at our school. Just images.
Thank you.
I have no idea. And I was
Hey.
every day.
We have one more attention to it. This is gonna be a longer conversation, so are you okay with stopping here and then we'll hit that one next time? Okay. Thank you. Oh, yes, let me turn this off. Thank you all for coming. And those of you who submitted questions, I don't know if they were your questions or if they're just from the community, but we really appreciate the questions.